front of
Yeah.
hundreds and hundreds of people,
Yep.
and we will just do this thing. So, well, welcome to the webinar. If you don't feel welcomed yet, I hope you do feel welcomed by the time we get to the end of the webinar. My name's Scott Rutz, and you may have seen me in some of the other sessions, but super, super excited to be a part of this one, just talking about FITs and custom itineraries, because these are a different beast. If you are familiar in the travel industry, when you are booking things kind of offline from different suppliers, different providers, it's a little bit more complex. You can't just import one thing and wham, bam, you're done. There's a lot that goes into it, and especially those that you do like fully customized FITs. It can be fairly complicated in the process. So firstly, hat tip to you if that's your specialty, and the types of experiences you craft are incredible. So with that, firstly, I want to answer a couple basic questions just in case if you're joining this webinar. And firstly, you're like, what is a fit? What is an FIT? Totally get that. We get that question fairly frequently, especially when we're working with newer advisors that are jumping into the industry. Stands for Foreign Independent Traveler. Sometimes people use different words for the acronym, but Foreign Independent Traveler, so that's what it is. But really what it gets to are pretty highly customized itineraries. You're not necessarily booking a package of here's your 10-day best of Italy, 7-day best of Greece. Not necessarily something like that, but it's very customized. You're also probably piecing together certain components. There might be multiple destinations involved. And so it is a lot more involved and complex just inherently based on the reality of it. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about just very briefly before we get into the agenda is talking about why, because I also talk to a lot of travel advisors that specialize in FITs, and they just wonder, Scott, I just take the document the supplier sends and I forward it on to the customer. Well, that's an option. That's absolutely an option. And I won't discount that by any means. But I'll give one example, and this is not to highlight a specific supplier because we hear from many different DMCs and suppliers. The documentation just isn't great for traveling. It's okay as a receipt or something like that, but I'll give you one example of, here's an example from Europe Express. Now this is a few years old of an example, but this is the document that they're using in there and that they're sharing and stuff. So this is on the quote side, but you get the picture, you get the idea of like, this is not enticing, this is not sexy, this is not attractive to share this with a client, and has very little utility when it comes to actually traveling and being on a flight, navigating your trip, navigating your journey, knowing what's going on. It's really, really important to have great documentation and great itinerary, because also if it's a true custom FIT, this is not a $1,500 trip. In many instances, they may be spending $5,000, $7,000, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 on that FIT. You want to give something that matches that price level in terms of the quality and the time and attention to detail. But then lastly, I've also heard from advisors, building your FITs and Travefy has actually helped a lot of advisors quality check themselves as they go through it. Chatting with an advisor that they actually caught a gross major error. They had booked a transfer in the wrong city on the correct day. And so their clients quite literally would have been sitting on the curb waiting for the transfer, going through kind of an emergency call with their agent to try to say, hey, no one's here. And this was several years ago before Uber and Lyft were in all of the different major cities and stuff. But the advisor caught it because they were building out their itinerary and noticed and actually quality checked it and were able to catch it because of how Travefy presented the information that way. So I wanted to go through a few reasons of why it's important to use Travefy on FITs and custom itineraries in there, from the quality aspect, but also the quality control that you're going through. So with that being said, I switched over to the wrong screen here, but we'll talk about a few things during the webinar, just high level, how to create FIT itineraries. We're going to start from scratch. You're going to actually see me build out kind of a real itinerary together, and hopefully you'll get a few ideas in there. We'll talk through different ways to add in hotels and accommodations, walking through how to add transfers and also build in excursions and tours, especially when those excursions and tours are offline. You can't just import them from a database. How do you do that? How do you make it look really professional and have all the information it needs? We'll also talk about your expertise and how you offer recommendations and itineraries, and is there a good way to be able to do that within Travefy? And spoiler alert, yes, there is. Within that, we'll walk through destination content, city guides, and a few tips in there. And then finally, I'll actually wrap up with a few different pro tips that I'll offer you. So especially if you're experienced with Travefy and you know a lot of this content that we're covering, the pro tips, you'll probably catch a few that might be really helpful for you in the process that way. So we will go ahead and jump into this. So this is where we're going to start having some fun. Now I'm in my Travefy account. We're starting from scratch. So I'm just going to choose new trip and itinerary, creating a blank itinerary. You're going to see me build this from the very beginning. Let's update the settings for the trip name. And we'll say, Alum, you're going to Italy. So we're building a trip for Alum here. So Alum's trip to Venice. And we'll set a start date of the 18th. Now we can also include in pricing or other details. Pricing, just a quick tip, it's an open text field. So you can also say, this is starting at $7,500 per person or something like that. In there, you can input any currency symbol that you wish as well. So it's pretty simple. And then you can also include in other descriptions, details in that description field, just as a high level intro into the itinerary. Now we're not going deep sea fishing, so I'm going to update this randomly selected photo into a more relevant cover photo. So we're going to search Venice because that's where we're going. And there we go. Pull up a nice photo of the canal and choose save. I'm going to actually adjust the cropping of this. I like that one right there. Choose save, and I'll save again. So we've got the basics set into the itinerary. Now let's actually start dropping in some travel content within here. So I'll walk through a few different methods. I'll add in a few tips and commentary along the way. But the first thing that we can do is typically with FITs, you kind of want to know the canvas that you're working with. You'll have your start date, but then you can also set your end date. Now, here's a quick tip on how to do that. Instead of clicking new day 20 times, I'll show you a trick. I'm going to click new day once on the left and choose March 19th. I'll click on that. Now I'm going to edit the day, and I can now set it to the 24th, and boom, all of those days appear in there. I can also readjust that because that's pretty slim FIT trip. I'll switch it to the 29th and I'll choose done. Now, what's great about this format is that all of these days have been added in, but they're deactivated. So it will only start showing the days once I click add events and it activates them. So now in the itinerary, you won't have a whole bunch of blank days displayed within there, which can invite questions from your clients and things like that. So I'm just going to start with March 18th now that we have our canvas laid out, so to speak, and I'll choose new event and we'll add in a flight. Within here, I'll add in Delta 38, that goes into Venice, and it's an overnight flight. So what I love about this is that it will actually show you how our flights integration just handles beautifully within here. It'll depart JFK in the evening, and then it lands the next day. And you can see that we've also now registered it for automatic updates. You'll see that green check mark to denote that it's receiving updates and that it's actually in the 24 to 48 hour real-time updates, and it's on time as of now. So within there, a few other tips within there, especially for FITs where you might have multiple flight legs and different things like that. If you're booking on the GDS, if you have those GDS superpowers, we do have a GDS integration. In here, you can copy and paste the flight schedules from the GDS into this window. Travefy will parse those and match those to our live flights database and register all of them for automatic updates. Now, that's really helpful because maybe you have 6, 8 different legs of flights. You can copy and paste all of the flight schedule lines in there, the 1, 2, 3, 4 in the GDS interface. They're denoted with that. And Travefy will parse all of them. So you can just copy and paste and all your flights are done, taken care of. They're in there. Now, separate from that, You can also edit this. You can input additional details like ticket numbers, things of that nature. You can also attach in confirmations so that if you want your client to have those hard copy confirmations attached to the itinerary, they can have that really easily that way, but I'll choose done. Now, one final tip I'm going to share on flights, because I see a lot of advisors do this. We're working on this. We know that this is an issue sometimes. I see some advisors that say, well, Scott, the flights are great, but I wish they were more compact. We're working on that. What I would strongly suggest don't delete out the airports, because Travefy is doing a ton of stuff in the background, grabbing the geolocation of those airports to interpret the time zones and then list the time zones and the events in the correct order for you so that you don't have to do that regardless of departures and arrivals in different time zones spread across. So when you add flights, don't delete the airports. We actually order the events based on the time zones of those locations. So it's really helpful. In the long term, we are working on ways to create a more compact view of flights for you. So watch out for more from Travefy on that. Now, we have added in the flights. We've walked through a few tips. Let's go ahead and add in transfers. We're in beautiful Venice. Water taxis are a thing. So instead of a normal ground transfer, we're adding in a water taxi. So we're going to go ahead and do that. What I'll do is choose new event in here. And what I'm going to do now is actually add in a water taxi from Viator. So we have integrations with a lot of incredible suppliers and tour operators, specifically great integrations with Project Expedition. So if you use Project Expedition, you can actually import bookings from Project Expedition, and a shout out, they've got a fantastic team, Rob and them. But then also we have an integration with Viator where you can import product info. And so that's what I'm going to do in this case. You have to turn the Viator integration on in your linked accounts in your settings. But now what I'll do, I'll choose new event and tour. We'll search for Viator. I'll select that. Now I can enter a product code, and I'll show you where you find this just because this is really helpful if you ever book through Viator. In here, this is the private airport water taxi transfer that I was mentioning. In here, we want to import the product info in. To import that, you'll see that second string of letters and numbers in the URL. You're going to copy and paste that. Now, I wish there was a slightly simpler way to do this, but this is the best method that Viator gave us to integrate and to import these details in. So it's not that first string, it's the second string after the dashes. I'll copy that and take that in here for the product code field. I'll paste that in and choose Get Itinerary. You'll see it gives me a preview at this point, and I can click Add to Itinerary to import that in. And it brings in everything: descriptions, details, inclusions, exclusions, all of that, additional information, and even photos. So that's fantastic, but you may want to consolidate it down. You can absolutely do that. Just double click on it. In this case, because we imported the product info, now I could shorten some of the text, but then I also might want to input a specific booking number. So I'll just drop in a confirmation number. I also might want to attach in a confirmation or a voucher so the client has that in hand or in the mobile app rather when they view the itinerary while they're traveling. So you can do that as well. But at the top, what I'll also do, let me scroll down here. I'll drop in a time. We'll say this is at 6 p.m. in there, and I'll go ahead and save this. So we've got that in. I actually added this to the wrong day, just quality checked myself on that. What's great is that with the drag and drop interface, I can just drop this over onto Sunday and it's updated. It's there. So especially for FITs, this is really helpful because you can move things around really quickly and it doesn't take a ton of clicking in that regard. So we've got our flights and our transfer in there. Let's go ahead and add in some accommodations, hotel. So I will, in this day, go ahead and click to add a new event, and I'll choose lodging to add in the accommodations. Now, from this point, Travefy has several different options to add in accommodations and hotels. Firstly, we have our general database, that general properties. In the near future, when we release our upgraded hotel content, you'll see a new tab in there that it'll kind of change the search methods in here. And you'll see an option for an official Travefy hotel database. And then you'll also see a web database. And that's what the general properties will become, is that web database. Now, we also are preferred with Virtuoso as well as InterNova and the InterNova affiliated brands. So you can, if you are a part of Virtuoso, if you're a member, or if you are a member or affiliate of InterNova, you can turn those on in your account settings under linked accounts. You can turn those on. So then you can import Virtuoso hotels with photos, description, amenities, or InterNova select properties with the InterNova descriptions, benefits, and amenities included in automatically. So those are really great tools. Now I'll show you a couple quick examples of how to do this with a few different properties in there so that you can see how that works. So firstly, I'll start with Virtuoso. I'm going to import the Londra Palace. This is a little bit lengthier in there, so I'll select that from the database. And then I will set a checkout date as well in this screen, and I'll choose Add to Itinerary. Now, this will bring in all of the Virtuoso content for me. So if you're a Virtuoso advisor, huge time saver and increases the quality very quickly of what you're importing in. So that imported in, I'll scroll down, and now you can see the incredible, really detailed description, the 2023 amenities, and a photo gallery automatically included in for me. Now, the same is true is if you want to import from InterNova, you can do that as well for the select content. That's really easy to do. It's the same process as Virtuoso, so I'm not going to go through that. But I did want to highlight general properties. So maybe you're working with a boutique hotel that's not in one of those databases and you want to import it in and add some good information for it. Well, you can definitely do that. What I'm going to do is within our database under general properties, I'm searching for the Hotel Regina within there. And I'm just typing in the name, and then I can search and add it from our database. And so you can see it has that different icon displayed there. I'll select that. And now I'm going to go ahead and set a checkout date again and add this into the itinerary. Now, we'll scroll down and you'll notice this has a little bit more limited content added into it. So if I click on the hotel, you'll see all that content on the right side is what's coming in from our database. This is a great example of when we launch our upgraded hotel content database, you'll get more automatically from that upgraded hotel content database. Photos, descriptions, property info, lots and lots of great information already included in. Now, what I can also do, say this hotel is kind of offline, I don't have it in one of those databases. Well, I added it in from our places database. I could still add in an overview and room categories with the table feature, etc. So I'll put in, room type, pricing, etc. I can do that pretty quickly, but under the multimedia section, I can also add in additional content. Now, in this case, I'll actually import photos from their website by pasting in the link to their website and choose Get Images within there. So I'm just pasting in the website link, clicking Get Images, and Travefy system scans it for photos. And now I can actually go through and just click on the photos that I want to import in. So within here, I'll select a few photos that I think are, a nice representation of the rooms and things like that. And I'll choose Save Changes. It's creating that gallery automatically there, and I'll choose Save. Oh, good point, Sharon. I didn't even realize I selected the wrong hotel. That's my bad. Different city. So good point on calling me out on that. But the workflow still stands in terms of being able to drop in hotels, resorts, things like that with different photos and descriptions within there as well. So I'll choose Done on that. But that's how you can add in from the consortia content that we have as well as the general database in there as well. So from here, let's go ahead and add in some tours and excursions because obviously that's a huge part of the experience with FITs. And so on March 20th, I'll click to Add Events, and we have a blank day. We'll add in some events. Now, as I mentioned, Travefy has integrations with many different suppliers, but then also especially on the activities and tours segment, we have integrations with Project Expedition, Viator. If you have others that you'd like to see us integrate with, let us know. We're happy to chat with them and connect with them about that. Now, what I'm going to do, though, is walk you through how would you add something that's not integrated at all? What would be a great way to do that? And so I pulled up an example within here from Live Italy. They're a tour operator, not necessarily preferred or anything like that in that regard. But what I'll do here is pull that up so that you guys can kind of see the page in there, and it's just a private food tour. Again, I forgot I accidentally pulled this from Rome, so I apologize, but let's imagine it's a Venice food tour, and it will be delicious along the way. In here, what I'll do, I'll choose New Event, and I'll choose activity. I can also, because it's a food tour, choose food and drink as the subcategory. Now we can grab a quick description in there and drop that in. We'll say private food tour as the title, and then we'll also go ahead and import in some photos with the multimedia section. You can fill out the additional booking details and things like that as well, but I'll go ahead and grab a few photos in there just to really dress it up and make it look great for clients in there. Choose Get Images. I'll pull in some images and photos for this, and it just takes a second to scan that and pull that in. But I personally love this, especially with tours and activities, because it adds so many great visuals within there. Now try not to let your mouth water as you look at all the beautiful photos of all the food that we're not eating during the webinar. And I'll add in a few photos, create a gallery, choose Save. Again, you can attach in confirmations or vouchers with the Attach Documents option. That way they're available on the phone, and then the client can even set the phone to offline mode so that it stores the documents offline. And I'll choose Done. So that's relatively simple and easy to drop those in. We'll walk through a few other options within here, especially for FITs, so that we can feel pretty solid on this. The next area I want to talk about is for the library. So especially if you work on FITs, you want to make sure you're not reinventing the wheel every single time. Now, although each FIT itinerary typically is pretty customized, you might reuse a lot of the same suppliers, tour operators, or providers on various itineraries. So this private food tour, if this was something that you've been on or you've sent clients on and they had an incredible time, you'd want to reuse that in the future potentially. So I'm going to click Save in this. So I'll edit this. I'll scroll down to the bottom and choose to save this to the library. And then I might also want to go ahead and add in some labels. So I'll add in a label for tour as well. I recommend, if you watched my library encore session yesterday afternoon, I recommend adding a few different labels, a category label and a geographical label at a minimum. So I'll add in an Italy label, and this tour is actually in Rome, even though I meant to add it to a Venice itinerary. So I'll just add in a Rome one to make it accurate for the library, and I'll choose Save to Library. Now this will actually appear in my library so that I can search for this in the future and just drag and drop it in like you see there. I can drag it over, customize the details, edit other things. I don't have to re-enter all of that information each time. So that's a really important factor and a huge time saver. Now, another area that's really powerful with Travefy, and this is where I want to brag on our product team a little bit with how they built this. We have a worldwide places database built into Travefy. So think of it like a Google Places search that you can type in any restaurant, business, point of interest, landmark, anywhere in the world, and pop the information into the itinerary really quickly and really easily that way. So that's what I'm going to do. Let's imagine you had a cafe in Venice that you wanted to recommend to your clients. You've been there, you've tried it out, and it's just a really incredible place that you want to tell them, hey, this is around the corner from your hotel, you should try it out. In here, what I'll do, I'll choose New Event and Activity. Choose Food and Drink, and I'll put in a recommendation. Try this cafe. And you could add in a quick detail or quick note of it, of, try the espresso and gelato. You might have more details than that, but that's a great starting point for it. So now this is what I absolutely love. In the attachments area, you can attach a place to this itinerary event. So down here, I'm just going to add in the name of the cafe, and you can see now it's popping up within our search database, and I'll select that. And now it's coming in with all of the content for me. I didn't have to enter any of that myself, and I'll choose Done, and I can close that out. So now the client has all the contact information, map, address, all of that included in that recommendation really, really easily that way within there. So that's a lot of those basics of entering in some of the specific components. The last area I want to touch on are city guides within Travefy. So Travefy has a database of over 640 different destinations worldwide for city guides that contain city overviews, points of interest, restaurant recommendations, and lots of different types of subject matter and categories that you can access within there. And so that's what I'm going to add in here. You can access our database, or you can create your own city guides and save them to your library for future use. That's really easy to do when you pull content from tourism board websites, DMO websites, and things of that nature. Now, what I'll do, I'm going to add this into the information document section. Advisors have different preferences on where they like to add city guides. Sometimes advisors like to pick and choose certain sections from city guides and drop them onto the days that they're relevant for. Maybe there's an at leisure day on March 22nd, Wednesday. They might add in some recommended activities, points of interest on that day, but they won't add the entire city guide. Now, other advisors prefer to add in multiple sections of a city guide into the information and document section. So it's also really easy to do that. So I'll drag and drop over the city section. I also might add in points of interest in there. I can do that. And then I'll add in dining as well, and I'll drop that in. And so you can see all of that content populates in really quickly and adds a lot of information to the itinerary just in seconds. Now, this is great because, especially when you're talking about a huge city guide or a huge itinerary, an FIT, being able to add in those content guides really quickly without having to take hours to do that is a huge advantage. Here's the other scenarios that the city guides are really helpful. Let's imagine you're working with a new client, and this client kind of doesn't know what they want to do. They have given you broad stroke ideas of, really want to go to Italy. Cool. Tell me more about that. I don't know. So now what I would recommend doing is you could create a trip literally in 30 seconds. That what you can do, instead of using it as an itinerary, retitle the days as destinations and then add the city guides to those days to send to the client. And now they have kind of an idea board or an idea trip of those different city guides and destinations. You can send that off to them with those different destinations in Italy and say, hey, client, let me take a look at this and let me know what you're thinking, what really resonates for you, what are some of the destinations that excite you most, and then I'll build an itinerary or a rough itinerary off of that after they pay your planning fee, of course, in there. But you get the idea. It's a great way to be able to use great professional content without investing tons and tons of time in there that way. So within here, the last thing that I want to do is talk through some of the pre-trip type of information. We get a lot of questions on what's the right way, especially in FIT itineraries where you're traveling internationally, you might be going through different countries. What's the best way to do that? Well, I'll give you a tip in here is you have a lot of fantastic information from your suppliers on some of the entry information, COVID information, things like that. What I would caution is sometimes the information suppliers send, it can be really lengthy and pretty complicated. It doesn't really have the right information along the way. So what I would recommend doing with certain destinations you work with pretty heavily is capture a lot of the information and link to the appropriate government websites or State Department websites that way. So I'll choose new information item. We're going to leave this as an info option, and we'll say Italy travel information. That's the title. Now, what I did before the webinar is I spent literally about 5 minutes just researching the State Department's website and grab the appropriate links within there, and I'll just paste them in there for COVID-19 information for Italy, U.S. State Department travel information, and the U.S. Embassy emergency information for Italy. These are really simple, really easy to find and access through the State Department's website, but these are insanely helpful if something actually came up, natural disaster or a terrorism event or something like that. This is where it's really critical for the client to be able to have that in the palm of their hand at a moment's notice and not have to dig through papers that they might have spilled coffee on while they're traveling or things like that. So I'm just creating that information. I also might want to save this to my library in the future and then be able to reuse this and drag and drop that Italy travel information on in the future. Now, the other reason I recommend linking to the embassy or State Department's websites is because you will never be able to keep all of your information up to date. The State Department literally has people, their job is to do these things and keep them up to date, and post new notices and things like that. So I would highly, highly recommend doing that in there. Now at this point, I'm going to press pause, and what I'll do here, I'm going to preview this itinerary so we can take a look and see where we're at with it in there. I am also going to throw this in the chat so that everyone can actually click on this and view this in their own browser and see what we've built just within the last few minutes here. So here is the itinerary. You can pull that up in the chat and grab that, and you can take a look at it. We'll see where Alum is going. Alum, you've got an amazing trip ahead of you, so get ready for it. But in here, obviously, your profile would be displaying at the top. We've got that beautiful canal photo that we added in, the flight information, the private water taxi transfer in there with all of the details associated with it and information, some beautiful photos. We have the check-in at Laundry Palace with all of the information, as well as the check-in to our Rome hotel that I accidentally added in. So sorry for any confusion with that in there. But big point with that, being able to import the photos, videos, and things like that to that, as well as the food tour. And then scrolling through here, getting a little bit further down to the city guide information, you can see all of that I included in as well in the information and document section. So I kind of specifically dropped it over into that information and document section. So it's separated and kind of organized that way. And then let me get down to the Italy travel information. The other thing I forgot to mention with Italy travel information, I recommend posting links in there that then the clients can access that information. But if there are any critical, really important, marquee pieces of information that you want to make sure the client doesn't miss, that's where it does make sense to paste that information in and even highlight it yellow or red within Travefy in the text editor that way. So those are a kind of a walkthrough of a lot of the basics that I think are really helpful to know about and to use while building FITs and custom itineraries within Travefy. Now, the last thing that I want to go through are some pro tips that I would share. Some of these I've learned from other travel advisors. Some of them I've learned or created myself just from answering lots of questions and working with Travel Advisor. And the first one being saving travel documents. So two really, really useful methods within here that I want to mention. Firstly, in your contacts in here, if I pull up a sample client in here, like Lucy, when I go to the docs section, this is secure document storage. It's tokenized secure document storage. So if you want to store clients' passport scans, photos of their passports, or vaccination cards, things like that, this is a perfect place to do that. And you can sort right on the client profile in the CRM, in contacts that way. Now, as well, another helpful option, I would store them in there when you just need to store them in general. But if you want to actually at some point attach them into the itinerary so that maybe the client needs them, or the client would feel better if they're attached in there, you can attach all of those in there on the itinerary just by attaching documents within there as well. And so I'll click edit, and I could go into the information document section, choose new information item, and we'll say client documents, and I could attach those in there. Now, you don't have to do that. Sometimes if you're worried about privacy, you could wait to do that until an emergency arises. Maybe the client lost their passport, God forbid, that would be terrible, or needs a copy of their vaccination card or something like that. Then you could attach them in. It's a really easy, quick way to give them access so that they can pull it up on their phone within there. Also, you can attach in supplier invoices, things like that. Might be helpful to group and organize those into one information event within Travefy, but that's pretty easy to do within there. So we talked through saving travel documents, attaching documents to the itinerary. Another area is chat in the mobile app. So the chat for the mobile app that you see within the mobile app, this is the client version of the mobile app. If I click on the chat icon here, tap on that, that opens the chat. So the chat for the agent, for the advisor, is accessible in the Travefy Pro app that I would highly recommend. If you have not downloaded the Travefy Pro app, download that, sign into it with your Travefy email and password, and that way you can access any client itinerary. You can send messages to your clients. You can also access your tasks that you've created within Travefy to see all of your task lists, reminders, and things of that nature. The chat, especially for FITs, is really, really valuable. And I want to give you a few tips along the way of how to best use the chat. So the chat is exposed in the mobile app as well as in the web interface. So I have chatted with a lot of travel advisors in the past that they like to use this to their advantage. So firstly, when they, normal busy FIT season, they'll actually come into the office every morning, check their email, jump into Travefy, and when they do that, they will actually filter this to upcoming or in progress for those filter by date options on the left to see who of my clients are out there traveling right now, because when it gets really busy, it's actually hard to remember all of those details when you're handling multiple trips and requests. But they would filter to that, pull up the trips that they want to take a look at, click edit. And in many instances, not every morning, but occasionally through the trip, they'll click on discussion and they'll just say, "Hi, Alan. I hope you are having a wonderful trip. Let me know if you need anything." And they'll just send a quick message, a check-in message, or maybe they'll send that on their day of departure, just like a bon voyage message to let them know, "Hey, thinking about you. Let me know if anything comes up or if you need anything along the way." Just a great way to strengthen the relationship with clients. This is also really useful if something goes awry during the trip. Trip is canceled, flights are canceled, etc. I was chatting with a great friend, Mona. She's from the Illinois area, and she was sharing me a great story with her clients where the flights actually got canceled because the airline went on strike when they were traveling back from Europe to the US. And the clients, firstly, saw the flight notifications in their phone, and then they reached out to Mona via the chat and were able to connect with her that way. She could sort out the entire situation, got them rebooked, and all they did was use the flight updates and the chat and handled all of it beautifully through the process. And Mona came out looking like the hero of the day because she was. She was using her expertise as an advisor and great technology to deliver a really good client experience along the way. So wanted to highlight that, how valuable the chat is. A lot of times advisors will just kind of pass it off and say, my clients don't really use it, so I'm not going to pay attention to it. It's a really great tool. So I would encourage you to check it out. Last couple of things I want to mention. We've mentioned a few of these in different sessions, but affiliate links. So if you're an advisor that likes to want to include your affiliate links into an itinerary on an excursion or something like that, what you'll want to do in this, and I'll show you this, because maybe you want to let clients explore this on their own and book their own excursions, but you want to grab the commission for it and be able to manage the booking if needed. So in here on Wednesday, I'm going to do this. I'll choose a new event and I'll choose activity, and we'll say explore tours and activities. Search and book your tours here. So from this, what you can do, I'll highlight that text and I can drop in my affiliate link to something like a Project Expedition, a Viator, or other services. I saw someone mention Get Your Guide in there. We'll have to check on that to see if we can get access to their API. What I'll do is I'll click the link feature, and then at this point, this is where then I would paste in my Project Expedition affiliate link. This is just a sample, but you can grab that from your Project Expedition account in there and choose Insert. Now I would actually save this. I would choose Save to Library and then reuse this on any trip where they're going to a destination that specific tour operator or provider has covered within their database. So then the client can actually search and explore those within there. And I shared this tip during my library session yesterday, but a great tip, I was working, my wife and I booked a trip through an agent recently, and she had a great way of messaging this. So shout out to Melinda on this. But I thought this was a brilliant way to message this, that she sent us her affiliate link and said, you have to book through this, because if you book through this, I can help manage the booking for you. So now it's not just about, I want the commission, it's, I want to provide great service to you. This is why you need to book through this link. So be sure to click this link. If you don't click this link, I can't help manage the booking for you. And I thought that was a great way to package that and message that to clients. Super, super smart on her part. So that's how to add in affiliate links to your Travefy account and then reuse those on itineraries. The final pro tip that I want to provide, and then we'll jump into some Q&A, is city guides. So very frequently, with specific FITs, and let's imagine complex FITs. I was chatting with an advisor a couple of years ago, and they had this brilliant suggestion. I loved it, and so that's why I want to share it with you. They worked on very complicated FITs, and I'm talking, like 14 to 20 days, and that they're going to multiple different destinations. Adding 4 to 5 city guides to an itinerary would start to get pretty overwhelming as a client that way. So this travel advisor had a brilliant solution. They create one trip for the itinerary and then another trip just for city guides. And I'll show you how to do that. So let's imagine this Alum's trip to Venice is the itinerary, and that we're not going to add city guides to that. We're going to invite Alum to this itinerary, but then I'm also going to choose a new trip and itinerary. And in here, we'll say this is called our Alum's City Guides. And I'll choose save. I'm not going to set a start date because now I'm going to retitle this day as Venice. So I'll drop in the title for Venice. I might also add in another day title of, Positano, because maybe Alum's going to Positano or something like that, but I'll choose Venice. And now I'll go back, load the Venice City Guide in here. And in this case, I'm actually going to add the entire city guide to that day. So it'll take a few seconds to load all of that content. Now, by doing this, the advisor then sends the full itinerary and the city guide itinerary to the client. And in the mobile app, it looks like they have two different options. They can look at their full itinerary, or they can look at the city guides, and they can toggle back and forth between the two. And it keeps the content separate and really nicely organized. Because now, besides that really fall autumn looking photo in there, Stephanie's laughing at me. In here, now the client can actually look at, I want to see the Venice City Guide, and they can scroll through all of that. They can click on Positano to jump to the Positano City Guide if you add that in. And so I thought that was a brilliant solution to really keep things very cleanly organized and keep the itinerary, the city guides that way. So with that, one, I'm ready to eat some pizza with Stephanie and Alum here in a little bit. Two, I want to answer your questions. So let's get into this.
Yes, the pizza is so close, but
I can't hear you, Stephanie.
Oh, wait. Can you hear me now?
Is it me?
Wait, can everyone hear me? Can people hear me? Maybe. Okay, so
it's me.
You.
It did the thing that it did to you, that it switches your headphone import there. My bad.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear.
That
was me. It was all me. I see people in the chat saying, I can hear everything. What's going on? It was me.
I'm like, wait. Oh, no. It's all right. Thank you, everybody. All of our friends in there just helping us out. Okay, so I have a few in here. So there's a lot. So many people were like, brilliant. Didn't think of that. Learning so many things. So awesome. One of them, though, can you show, because you did this at the very beginning, but can you show again how you added multiple dates at once? Because that's a game changer that a lot of people don't realize.
Yeah, super helpful. I'll create a new itinerary just from scratch here so that you guys can follow along with this. So in here, you can set a date by choosing add a date here on day 1, or you can do it in the trip settings window where it says your itinerary. Either one's fine. We're just setting the start date. So in this case, I'll set March 18th as the starting date. Now, simplest thing, 2 clicks. 1, click new day to create another day. And now I'm going to select March 19th and then edit this date of March 19th because I'm editing the date of this day. I know that sounds weird. You're editing the date of the day because the day is just a vessel that's holding some of the travel content, the bookings, the events. I'll click edit on this, and now I'm going to change the date of that day, and we'll say the 24th in there. So I'll select that, and it creates all of those days in one click for me. Now, I've had this happen a few times with advisors. They accidentally do that, and they add a date like 6 months in advance, and they have an itinerary of 6 months of content and the 2-week FIT that they built in there, and they're panicking. They're like, I don't want to rebuild this whole thing. Totally fine. What you'll do, click on the final day of the itinerary, just click edit in there, click that option and click delete day, and all those extra days just deleted. So if you accidentally do that, you can back out of that really, really quickly. But again, you can use that to your advantage.
Yes, I have seen that before, and it looks terrifying if you don't realize you can delete it. Like, you're like, no. On that, so on the day stuff, is there a quick way to change the order of items on a specific day?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's do that within there. I'll pull up the itinerary that we were building here. I'll click edit on this. And within here, everything's drag and drop, so you can change the order. Now, the only thing that you want to watch out for changing order of are times and time zones, because Travefy is actively trying to order everything for you in there. But it's very easy. I'll combine a few of these things onto a single day so that you can kind of see this. I have that recommendation. I have the explore tours and activities and the private food tour. Well, I could actually just drag that explore tours and activities up, and you'll see a green drop zone appear, and I can drop it in there and it changes the order of that. So you can do that in the normal interface. You can also click edit and collapse everything. So maybe you have some really large events with lots of text and notes. It makes it hard to drag and drop because the events are so large. If you click edit, it collapses them down. And now again, I can drag and drop and reorder them that way. So I just drop the food tour to the first event in there.
Yeah, so that's really cool. I think because that's kind of a hidden thing too, that you can just easily move things around. So really awesome. Okay, so this one, I'm going to point you into a direction here. So someone asked, is it possible for price to be an open text field in the elements like at the beginning? So then that way we could add per person or in a different currency. And what I thought about is you doing that in the description area. So like the trip settings in there.
Yeah, with pricing, especially with FITs, because they can be a little more complex, there might be some nuance to the pricing that you need to provide more detail. In the trip settings window, and that's this window that you can click settings or click the name of the trip, that trip settings window, this is an open text field. So you can input anything that you want within here, but it is a text field. It's not a full like text section in there. So this is where if you're going to include pricing, I would keep it fairly brief, like a starting at or something per person, something of that nature. So you can do that really easily. You can put per person. You can categorize things differently. This is just an open text field. What I would also recommend is in the information and documents section, you can create a more full traditional pricing and information item in there that you copy and paste things in from the supplier, add in your own items, etc. And so I'll choose new information item and we'll say pricing and details. You can include in quick overview of pricing in there, but then you can also include in a table within there. Now, that's really helpful because then you can just copy and paste items in from an invoice or something of that nature so that then the client can see all the full detail of pricing depending on how you want to convey that. If you want to piecemeal it or break it into like, here are your flight costs, here are your hotel costs, et cetera, you can really categorize it how you wish.
Awesome. Perfect. Yeah. Really cool there. Okay. One last question here, and it's from Scott to Scott here is, this is another one for like kind of on the days. It's kind of the theme we're going here for is, how can I add a flight before the trip? Because when I changed the start date, it bumped all my events from the first day. So that's really important that to know like the best way to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Great question. This comes up all the time with FITs as well as cruises, where many times the advisors will build out the cruise itinerary as the anchor and then send that to the client and they say, yeah, go ahead and book the flights. And then the agent says, oh, I set up the itineraries March 18th, but the flight leaves on March 17th. What do I do? Super simple. It's so simple. It's actually kind of tricky initially. And once you learn it, you're like, oh, that was easy. What you'll do, again, just choose new day, click new day once, and then take this day and we're going to drag it to the top. And Stephanie, can you still see my screen here?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So now I'm dragging it to the top. You'll see that green drop zone appear, and now it says March 17th. It's the interface is saying, yeah, this will create a new day for March 17th. I'll do that. Now I can click March 17th and add in the flights. That way I don't have to recreate and reshuffle things around.
Perfect. That's awesome. One thing too, because someone asked about that link that you had shared for this trip. They said it didn't allow them to copy. So just a note on that when you have to make sure you're logged into your Travefy account and then that save a copy option appears at the top. So just have to do that.
I actually saw that question. I can't remember who asked it, but I turned on the save a copy option after I saw your question. Oh. Just refresh that itinerary and you'll see that save copy option at the top of it now. But yeah, feel free to save anything in there that's helpful to see an example.
Awesome. So good. And I know I love Scott said bingo. Perfect. But I know there's some questions in here that came in that Alum he's still typing, so I won't shut this down on you, Alum. Keep going. He's in there. But there's going to be a few questions I know that we probably won't be able to get to. So definitely reach out to our support team, professional@travefy.com, or get in your live chat. That's instant right away. So chat with us in there. And then again, you can catch all of these sessions, including this one, at trainingcamp.travefy.com. And Scott, I just got to say, grazie mille.
Hey, I don't know what to say.
I know,
Stella, I need your help. Stella.
Well, Stella said, bravissimi. I think that's how you say that. I might have butchered that a little bit.
Do I say grazie then, or what's?
Yeah, prego.
Prego.
Bravissimo. Yes, okay. That's what you get. You get.
Stella's like, you're rocking it. You don't have a clue, but you're rocking it.
So now, okay, goal next training camp, we will be fluent.
So I know enough Spanish and German to be polite and not be ignorant. Italian is next on my list. So thank you, everyone, for enlightening us. Nicole, Stella, Geisha, thank you for enlightening us with some Italian.
How to do it. Oh, we're going to go annoy the rest of the team and be like, oh, we're just going to be like speaking Italian on the words that we've learned.
Yes. That's awesome.
But I love it.
Cool. Thank you, everyone. Happy Thursday. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to join Stephanie's next session on the website builder, as well as jump on the trivia happy hour. We want to see you there.
Woo, we'll see you soon. Thanks, everyone. See ya.